I would now like to hand you over to Laurence Kiddle, Managing Director of the EMEA Corporate Market. Thank you.
Great, well thanks Paul for that. And so in common with Paul, this is actually a first for me as well. So I took on this role in the summer from Mike Roberts, who's now enjoying a life of relative warmth in Melbourne. And on a day like this, a damp November day, there's a little bit of envy there, I think. But it's notwithstanding that, it's absolutely fantastic to be here today. Also, like Paul, I'm not new to the area. So I've been part of the tax technology team for over 14 years at Thomson Reuters and at the predecessor businesses at Arthur Andersen's and at Deloitte's. And there's many familiar faces here in the audience who've been colleagues, customers and partners throughout my career. So again, great to see you all. And I have to say, as a chartered tax advisor, and having spent the last 2 years running our group responding to the American FATCA legislation, it's actually very good to be dealing once again with a more familiar and, I dare say, more logical and certainly more readable tax code. As apologies to the Americans here. So I'm very excited to be here again today. I'm going to spend around 15 minutes or so looking at some of the areas that we've been focused on in the tax and accounting group in EMEA for the last year or so, and then give a quick guide through the rest of today. Before I do though, I mean, just to step back a moment, we actually had a Bring Your Children to Work day in the office a couple of weeks or so back. And we had, I think, 16 to 18, 1 to 7-year-olds in the office. They all had an absolutely brilliant time. But I think despite our best efforts, I don't think any of them are really growing up dreaming of being tax technologists yet. This might change in the future though. And I think I find this area, and this might be the inner geek in me perhaps, I find this area endlessly fascinating. And I think there's a number of reasons for this. But we've got more and more complex business problems to solve in an increasingly international tax landscape. I think we've seen that through the polls that we've had today. Our solutions have to remain and respond to this, be ahead of the market. And it's this sense of change and of finding better, more automated solutions that I and my colleagues here find endlessly fascinating. I think there's 3 real fundamental drivers to what we do, and the way these combine creates this ever-changing dynamic. And these are, firstly, responding to new business priorities, and by that really I mean your priorities as our customers. Secondly, is dealing with the ever-changing and ever more complex tax regulation. And finally, it's making better use of the technology and seeing how that changes through the future. So I'll spend a few minutes looking how these are driving our tax and accounting business. So firstly, looking at the business drivers, and I think at 2 levels for this. Part of it's wider business trends, but part of it is the voice of the customer. And a real focus for us this year has been the voice of the customer, so that's the voice of everyone here. And we're committed to becoming better at listening to that and becoming better at engaging with that. And I can point to a few initiatives we've done around this. So we've run a number of user focus groups in 2014, which some of you here have been a part of, covering sessions that are diverse as a very deep dive into UK life tax, but also a much wider view across international VAT compliance. We ran a client day for our one-source corporation tax users, and there are around 100 individual users there. Again, it's an absolutely fantastic day. And we've run a number of WebExes around key product releases to better explain some of the new functionality that we are releasing through the products. And we've also changed this event. We changed Synergy to reflect that focus as well. So we've got a number of roundtable sessions and product interest groups running through the day. I'm going to dip into a few of those. I really look forward to seeing what comes back from them. Our thermometer for customer feedback is an annual client survey. So we run this every summer, and thanks for all of you that participated in that this year. It gives us great information on how we as a business can better respond to your requirements. And you know, with any survey, there's always good and bad news coming out of it. I mean, on the positive side, we had very strong feedback on building, implementing and offering support around our products, and some great comments around that. But there are some areas for improvement. I'd just like to touch on those a moment. I think there's 3 main areas for me that we'll be looking at focusing for the next 12 months. So one of them is around training. I think we recognise we could do a better job around training. Example here, there's a huge amount of functionality that sits within our products. I look at one-source corporation tax as an example. You know, we very often get feedback like, it'd be great if one-source did whatever. And the answer is very often, well, actually it does. But we're clearly not doing a very good job of actually explaining, getting out what we have within the product. There's some sessions on review of functionality today that I think go into some of the things that have been there for a long time, but perhaps people don't always access. And for us, I think this goes beyond a conventional classroom-based view of training. It's looking at e-learning, it's looking at more interactive help systems, and better communication through the release cycle, so you actually understand and can use what we are putting a lot of time and investment into putting into our products. So look for changes to that over the next year. A second and almost related point here, we're looking at more engagement on product strategy. So the user groups and the roundtables today are an important step for us for that. We're investing a lot in our product management functions, and we're looking at new ways, rolling out new ways to help you input directly into our roadmaps over the next year. And the third point, we know you value the experience of others, and we do commit to enabling better networking both with your peers, and there's real benefit in our customers talking to each other, enabling you to share best practice, but also making sure you've got the right relations with the Thomson Reuters team as well, to make sure this best practice gets embedded back in the software. And hopefully you'll see today as an important step in that direction as well. And as part of this focus on the voice of the customer, we're actually looking at new ways to enable these connections. So the backdrop we've got here is a platform called Community, a new online platform for OneSource customers. And the idea behind this is to help you get in touch with OneSource customers from around the world, partly to expand your networks, but also to enable you to ask questions, get involved in discussions, and give us that steer on product strategy and direction. So it allows you to ask questions and get involved in discussions. There's new ways to use OneSource products through this as well, and I think there's a lot of good education going through this. We're going to pilot this initially with the EMEA users for indirect tax, for Workflow Manager, transfer pricing, and tax provision. And we're going to follow this in a few months with corporation tax and accounts production as well. So please do look out for the invites to take part in this. I think it's a really exciting initiative, something we're very keen to get useful. The second factor I mentioned then was looking at changing tax regulations and complexity. But to frame that, actually look at another business driver here. So we're seeing an increasing trend to move tax compliance into shared service centres. I think good experience of that in the room here. And I think driven by three key points. So one of them is a desire to standardise process between business units across different jurisdictions. And I speak to one of the KPMG guys on this earlier on. We're very much seeing this through Ireland at the moment. The second is a need to reduce risk and increase control around the compliance process. And the third, and maybe this should be the first one perhaps, but in cash-constrained times, it realises good potential for cost savings, so either absolute within a business or reducing third-party fees. We've done a bit of work in this area recently with an organisation called Shared Services Link, and just highlighting one finding here, just looking at different compliance processes. So indirect tax is the process most likely to be in a shared service centre, I think for many and obvious reasons. But 59% of our respondents either already have this in place or are planning to move it in. Accounts production and statutory reporting are also fairly well established, and we're actually investing a lot in technology to help this, as I'll come on to in a moment. There's also an increasing trend for direct taxes, which I think is relatively new, and something perhaps I haven't seen over the last few years, but directionally it seems that's where a lot of businesses are moving to. So over the years, we've looked at the commonality in tax regimes, as well as depth and complexity in country, to inform our product roadmaps, and I'll just go to this in a little bit more detail now. So looking at detailed in-country solutions, primarily around direct tax, to dip into products for a moment, version 7.1 of OneSource Corporate Tax was released a couple of Fridays ago, Friday 7th of November. So those of you that do license it should be going through the upgrade process now. And there's several sessions running today, including one here immediately after this session, that highlights some of the activity on this over the last 12 months. So the 2014 releases have included a lot of support for the new controlled foreign companies regime. There's enhancements to the way we support the patent box rules, and in the tax accounting module, support for IFRS. We've also been investing heavily in the enterprise version of OneSource Corporation Tax, of OCT, and we see a significant part of the market moving that way as well. And one of the key benefits for our enterprise model is in the management information reporting, so actually going beyond the numbers in the tax comps and actually looking to get real value out of those. And we're working hard with key customers in the corporate sector and in some of our partners as well to make sure that the reporting there does reflect what you need it to do, so standard reports and a more flexible way of accessing them. I did flag it earlier, but a key ongoing project is a rewrite of the help system as well, so you'll see more results from that over the next year. And we also support the direct tax process through OneSource Workflow Manager, of course, and there's a really interesting case study coming up today that illustrates this. So one of our fundamentals, we try and deploy all of our own technology in-house, and the Thomson Reuters tax team, many of whom are actually here today, they're certainly not shy in holding us to account when they believe that things could be made better. So very valuable immediate voice to the customer there for us. But that team is actually presenting a case study today on the implementation of a tailored CFC management solution in data flow within the OneSource Workflow Manager tool. And that's all around reducing the time spent on controlled foreign companies reporting. And that reduced the time spent by over 50%. So it's a great case study. I think a great example of how technology is solving a real business issue there. OneSource Workflow Manager already supports direct tax pay and file for many countries. Most corporate tax compliance is done in-house or outsourced, but we do see a direction of travel, as I say, for greater centralisation in that. And we do plan to roll out more direct tax compliance modules over the next few years. So again, an active area for us that we're investing through. Turning briefly to statutory reporting, we see an increasing trend of centralisation and consistency around this. We work on a project with a few of our largest customers at the moment, all major global corporations, to roll out standard rule packs for statutory reporting on a global basis, starting with key European jurisdictions, hence the map, but also actually looking to Australia and South Africa and other important global centres as well. On the UK-specific products, we are, of course, supporting the new UK IFRS regulations, and the 2014 releases for version 6.8, 6.9 include tagging for the IFRS taxonomies, compliant for year-ends, for December year-ends this year, and new taxonomies specific to FRS 102, which are coming out for 2015 year-ends. And obviously a lot of work going on there as well on FRS 101, FRS 102 and IFRS for next year too. So a lot of development work going on there. And we've also got a great customer-led session for this today as well. So in this you'll find out how Acorn Care and Education brought their financial reporting process in-house, 40 different legal entities, saved a lot of third-party fees and speeded up the accounts production process as well. So a great case study in how, again, this is making a real difference to business processes. And continue that scale of internationalisation, just looking to indirect and transactional taxes. So for indirect tax, we approach this from two angles within the global end-to-end automation process, which looks at tax determination and at tax compliance. So to look at tax determination, there's a key driver for us here in the 2015 EU Place of Supply rules. And that's causing many businesses we work with to review how they're doing indirect taxes and can often be a push towards a more automated way of dealing with it. On the product side for this, we put a lot of work into links with SAP, a project called Global Next. And that gives seamless integration of our determination engine with SAP. And that makes the rollout easier, more straightforward, and makes it, I think, a more integral part of a business and an easier project to manage. So a lot of good work going on around that. There's a couple of case studies in determination today as well, which should be very interesting. Looking to VAT compliance, the 2014 releases for that, again 7.1, means that we're now covering 46 countries globally, and by January 2015 we have the whole of the EU covered for indirect taxes. But as well as across breadth on this, we're actually looking for a lot of country depth as well. So for that we're beginning to cover a lot more supplementary returns, the listings coverage for sales lists and purchase lists, a lot of new tax calculations, and also a lot more management reporting and exception tracking capability as well, making a far more rounded audit tool as well as simple tax compliance. And continuing the customer theme on this, we've got a breakout led by B-Sky-B on this one today. And that's all around how they realise a high-performing tax function adds value to the business in its own right, rather than just as a compliance function. And they're going to discuss the process they've gone through, benefits they've seen, and improvements that they'll make in the future on this. So an ongoing process, but one we're very, very excited they can share with us today. I'll also touch briefly on transfer pricing here. So our documents tools operated many jurisdictions on that global scale for many years now. And a key part of our product strategy through 2014-2015 is in continuing to build out comparative data within this. And with BEPS on the horizon, we're investing a lot of time and effort around BEPS, as I think Paul mentioned as well. The focus on transfer pricing is only going to increase. So again, we see this as a trend that's going to accelerate over the next few years. Another interesting and related area is around operational transfer pricing. And our solutions around this makes transfer pricing effectively a real-time operation activity rather than an annual true-up. I think there's a lot of significant benefits there in terms of cash flow, in terms of time saving, and a lot of resource saving as well, in doing it real time rather than at the end of a period. So in changes to technology generally, and particularly the way large data volumes are managed and how systems can integrate together, has played a major role in how we're transforming indirect tax and also transfer pricing over the last few years. And speaking of technology, that's where we go to next, but there is one final polling question of this session at least before we go into that. And this, very much focused on our products. How can OneSource get better? Nice straightforward question. The other, sadly there's no free text option there, but do feel free to catch up with us at any point over the next day or so. And we'll try and build any comments into our product management. I'm not seeing action here. Do I need to press anything else? Nope, here we go. I'm liking the nothing don't change a thing, but I'm not sure that's wholly accurate. Okay, I think there's a clear leader here, notwithstanding Paul's slightly premature calling of one of the earlier races. So I think we're looking at improved integration here. We've got our product managers here scattered through the room, so I think that confirms our general direction of travel. That's something that we are very committed to moving through. Okay, so looking briefly at technology, and I guess the mobile app provides quite a neat segue into that. Paul picked up a lot of the changes that technology makes to our everyday lives. For us within Thomson Reuters, and I think a lot of you who were here last year would have seen this, a lot of our short-term technology investment has been around product integration, and that's continuing over the next few years. We have within Thomson many market-leading tax solutions, but pulling these together, I think, creates an awful lot of value. I think that poll survey bears that out as well. And I think in doing that, we can maybe do things that other organisations can't do. We've got a client case study today that illustrates some of this. I think this is from Baker Hughes. And this looks at how data flow, as I mentioned, will integrate with tax provision and the benefits of using technology to assist with tax processes, but bringing different parts of our solutions together to perform something that is clearly far greater than the sum of those two. We do, of course, have a much longer-term technology roadmap as well, building on technology of tomorrow so we can be strategic partners through business and work down through complex challenges together. I'm not going to go into great detail of that here, however. We hear a lot more plans about this from Bob Shukai, who's our Global Head of Mobile Technology, who's going to be closing the conference today. Now, it's actually a fairly good point to change track and to take you through the plans for the rest of the day. So, firstly, we have got two guest speakers coming through. I mentioned Bob Shukai, in the corner up there. He's the Global Head of Mobile Technology at Thomson Reuters, and he'll be closing the conference by talking about our journey towards being an innovation-driven organisation. And you'll learn a lot about his thoughts on innovation, on wearable technology, a very hot topic at the moment, and how his team used design workshops to basically to drive the innovation process going through Thomson Reuters, through mobile design and way beyond that. So mobile, as Paul alludes to, is clearly a growing area. It'd be great to get Bob's views on that. But before that, and from a very different part of the world perhaps, immediately after lunch we got today's keynote speech from Penn Haddow, who's a global explorer and environmental consultant. I'm really looking forward to this one. Penn's got an extraordinary story of achievement in some of the most challenging environments on Earth. For the avoidance of doubt, that's not a basement conference room in Washington with the IRS negotiating deferred prosecution agreements. He goes way beyond this. He's 2003, he's catapulted to international fame when he became the first person to complete one of the last great polar challenges, which is a solo trek without resupply from Canada to the geographic North Pole. And it's thought to be harder than climbing Everest solo. It's enormous level of skill and endurance to actually go through something like that. I'm very much looking forward to what he's got to say about that and how that can relate to our businesses as well. We've already flagged the customer case studies. I'll just do that one more time. Paul will talk you through this as well. But we have got some great experiences here. Part of the reason for mentioning this, though, is that we have a number of customer case studies for the first time at Synergy. I think all our customers have different ways of using technology, and part of the ethos behind today is helping you share that with each other and with us, so we begin to understand more about how you do use our technology, how we can help you improve that. And of course, there's also the Thomson Reuters tax team sharing their own experience as well. Also, just to mention our partners, so we believe we bring a lot of additional value through partnering, both with you, our customers, and with the experts in the industry who you trust the most. Under our Certified Implementation Partner Programme, leading accounting and consulting organisations provide a lot of assistance for some of our products. So CIP partners up here include Deloitte, PwC, Ernst & Young, KPMG, BDO, and Grant Thornton. There's booths outside for all of them. They've got staff represented here as well. So please do take the opportunity to speak to them. It's certainly partnerships we get a lot of benefit from. We think they do too. And thank you for your continued partnership. It means a lot to us as a business. One final plug for the app. I think the polls have showed that you've all got to grips with that, which is excellent. There's also a way within that to leave us feedback and comments on the sessions that you go to. So please do make use of that. We'll read everything, we'll take it all on board, and we'll make sure that we make best use of that. So please do get involved with that. I'm just about done here, but before I do go and hand you over to the tax and process experts for the rest of today, Just one closing point, really. Now, a big part of today, as I've mentioned, is the chance to network with your peers, with your fellow tax professionals and advisors, and with the Thomson Reuters team here today as well. We've got a large number of Thomson Reuters staff here, most of the deep technical experts from all of our products. You can see us from our orange badges, I think. So come talk to us, come share your opinions, good or bad, and we'll certainly take them on board and work with them. There's a one-source booth out in the conference area as well. That will take you through any of our solutions should you want to find more about that. And we've got that staff with our product experts, so they should be able to provide answers. There's also a standard course from our certified implementation partners as well, so please do speak with them. They're not generally shy of an opinion, so it's worth the conversation there. At the formal end of today's event, we'd like to invite you to stay for cocktails and canapés. We're running that from 5:30 to 8:30. It has been known to go on for longer. There have been some very inventive solutions defined, fairly late night at the bar. I'm not sure we've actually productised any of them yet, but there could be a first time, so keep the conversations going. We'll be off to breakout sessions now, so you should all have personal agendas, either through the app or printed out. The rooms are signposted from the vestibule area outside. Corporation tax sessions are in here, so you don't need to move. Otherwise, I think it's back around the rooms. We're back here after lunch for a pen session, and then again at the end of the day. So basically, enjoy today. Today's what you make it, so please do participate, particularly in the round tables. Let us know what you think, and enjoy the day. I think that's it from us. So thank you for coming. Enjoy.